everybody. I'm Coach Rebecca. I am here to talk about the one thing that you need in order to have a satisfying, long lasting, awesome sport career. Okay, let me make sure Facebook is operating here. Okay, good. So there's this one thing that I have seen in the most successful athletes that I've ever personally coached or interviewed. There is something that is universal in people who go the distance in their sport. And I'll tell you about that in a moment, but I'm, thinking about it like why do they make it to the Olympics? Why do they make it to their dream school for college? Why do they make it to that sort of end game that they were shooting for their whole lives? Well, they didn't burn out. That's one thing that's really important. So first, I want you guys to think to yourself, what is success? Whether you're a parent of an athlete or a coach, or you're the athlete yourself. When you think of your athlete's success, what does that mean? Like if I was to look back on my gymnastics career and go, what would have made that a success for me? I have all these regrets of, well, I wish I could have gotten to a higher level. I wish that I could have XYZ. So was my sport career a success? I would look back and go, no, I don't feel like it was a huge success. So for you, what would make your sport career a success? Just think about it for a moment. What would it require of you? Is there a certain benchmark? Is there a certain end game? Is there something that would be like, yes, that was a success? Now, the definition of success, like I went ahead and Googled it just to be like, what does that even mean? I know we put a lot of stories behind it of like, well, this would be a success and this outcome and this improvement would be a success. Well, the definition of success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So you get to decide what is a success for you. That's kind of good news, right? It's not like only Olympians are successful and everyone else fails. That might be your definition. It might not be the best for self-confidence. But so if your aim is to be perfect, then if you're not perfect, you're not a success. If your aim is to reach an outcome and you don't reach the outcome, you're not a success. So that's just something to kind of take on and like chew on a little bit, that you define success. So if you feel like you're failing, well, consider that you are setting up what success means for you. So I'm not saying that we're going to be all like, our new aim is to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. I succeed. But I do want to redefine what success means, because the way you redefine it is going to potentially make or break how long you stay in your sport and how much you can get done. So if you only feel successful or valuable or happy when you are reaching a certain benchmark, it requires a lot of you. And what I'm going to say is that it actually could end up being a long, hard life if you are only happy when you are reaching a benchmark. So I was the kind of person, like I'm going to say was, but really this still is part of my fabric as a former gymnast. I always was chasing the carrot, and I was like, well, I'll be happy when I'm a level 4. I'll be happy when I can do my back handspring. I'll be happy when I beat Camille Good on beam. She was my nemesis. It was always her or me. I will be happy when I go to college, when I get a good job, when I get engaged, when I have kids, when I get a house, blah, 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 blah. And, I've always sort of been like, well, I just need this one more thing and then I'll be good. Now, if you're anything like that, if happiness lives outside of you, then it's possible that you might never feel truly satisfied with your sport career. So that's a problem, because science has proven that we all perform better when we're happy. We're better at our jobs, we're better at our sports, we're better at our relationships when we're happy. I mean, I noticed this the other day. I was in the car with my husband, and I was grumpy, like something wasn't going right. I wasn't reaching one of my benchmarks. I was not succeeding in this moment. And then my husband, did some husband thing, like have words come out of his mouth. And I was like, rah, like, you're the worst. And I like jumped all over him. Then I noticed like one day later, we're in the car and he's being husband-like and like having words come out of his mouth. And I'm like, oh, And it's like, it doesn't really matter what's happening. If I'm not happy, everything feels hard. Everybody feels wrong. Everything feels unreachable. So happiness has got to be the thing you have before you can start performing better. Now, what we've all done in this culture or in this sport or whatever is go, well, once I reach my benchmark, feel successful, I'll be happy, and then I will have arrived and it'll be so great. But we're not happy because we're setting these big benchmarks, we're not reaching them, we're feeling like failures, which makes us worse at performing, which actually sort of sets this negative feedback loop into place where confidence is just constantly being eroded because of what we have defined success as. So you cannot wait until you reach your goals to be happy, or you might actually never reach them because of that. Does that make sense to you? I'm following. I hope that you're following. So, bottom line, you have to get happy first, which requires changing how you define success for yourself. Now, you might think that I just let the cat out of the bag on the one thing that you need. It's not happiness. Curveball. The one thing that you need that can make your sport career a success is grit. Okay, now here's another word you might Google and look up. I did. But grit. There's a lot of research on this quality. This is the thing that the best athletes all have. And what it is like, think of it this way. You get to the top and everybody is equally talented. Everyone's equally intelligent. Everyone has equal resources. Like, in order to get to the top, I mean, obviously there's some wiggle room in what I'm saying, but you get the idea. You're the best of the best with the best coaching, with the best training time, with the best talent, all, and then here you are at the top. But what sets people apart? It's that ability to do a little more, dig a little deeper, stick with it a little longer. It's this integrity even. It's this, like, I've heard it defined as a fitness of character. Oh, I'm hearing my little one having a moment. Fun for working from home in a pandemic. But anywho, so you've got this, like, this fitness of character that puts you in line with what you say you want because you're willing to get out of your comfort zone to get it. So you've got this passion for a long-term goal, you know, it's maybe still an outcome goal, but it's sort of this big picture thing that allows you to just stay with it. And now this is not an end game in itself. It's not like, well, when I get grit, I'll be happy, right? This is an attitude. It's what allows you to work hard. It allows you to reach goals. It allows you to struggle and fail and not be quote unquote successful, but you are able to quickly regain your mental control. You don't spin out. You don't go into a big drama. Oh, I'm not gonna, oh, poor me, blame, blame, blame. You're able to regain your mental control after even unexpected, uncontrollable events like a pandemic. Your season is wrecked, or your season is different, or you were stuck home for 5 months, or, you know, whatever that unexpected, uncontrollable event is. You gain control, you dust yourself off, and you try it again. And there's one girl who I used to coach when I was a gymnastics coach, who this girl was the embodiment of grit. She would pick herself up and try again. Now, there's a difference between like the obsessive passion of like keep going till your body falls apart and you're a bloody mess on the floor. That's not healthy. That's not what we're looking for. But this is the kind of girl who's like, can I come in on Wednesday and condition? What if I do this extra thing? Hey, what if I work on my imagery on the side? Well, maybe I'll train my mind if I'm maxing out my body. But, you know, it's just that person who's like, I'm just going to work a little harder than my competition. I'm just going to get a little more out of my comfort zone than that girl next to me is willing to be. And that allows you to feel like everything you're doing, you're pouring into your training in a way that you just know you're going to get what you want. If there's any doubt, you know, you're holding back, you're hesitating, you're just going through the motions, then it creates this sort of background noise of Do I really want it enough? Am I really good enough? Just that like chatter in your mind versus just going, I'm going to pour everything I have into this. So there's just no question that I've done everything I can and I will get what I want. So I'm going to give you 9 ways. That's 6 fingers. 9 ways to increase grit. Okay. Number 1, mindfulness. So that is improving awareness of your body and how to calm it down. So you strengthen your ability to tune into your body, sit with discomfort, and let feelings and emotions come and go without reacting. So you think of yourself like you are a mountain and your feelings and emotions are just the weather. No matter what comes, you're still a mountain. There's lightning, you're still a mountain. It's hot, you're a mountain. There's wind, you're a mountain. So you're able to distance yourself from feeling like I am scared, I am worried. Instead, it's I'm having a fear thought. It's like a little cloud in the sky that I'm watching float by. And I'm having a worry thought. And now I'm having a confident thought. And now I'm having a what's for dinner thought. And knowing that what's going on in your body and in your mind are all things that you can handle. And the better you get at being mindful, the better you get at handling things that come your way and going, hey, I'm still the mountain and everything's going to be okay. All right, number 2, persistence. I'm going to share with you one of my very, very favorite quotes in the whole world by Margaret Purlis. She's an author. She says, this is basically what gritty people believe. Everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Okay? Again, this is the gritty people's mantra. Everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. I mean, if you can look at life in that way, going, no matter what struggle you're up against right now that feels too hard or too big or insurmountable or like you don't have what it takes, what if you could look at it with the knowledge that everything will be all right in the end and that this isn't the end? That just allows you to keep at it, right? Okay, number 3 way to get more grit is to pursue what interests you. Why would you want to do all this hard work and drudgery if it wasn't something that really mattered to you? So check in. If you're having trouble digging deep, going the extra mile, doing everything possible to give yourself a chance at what you say you want in your sport, check in and ask yourself if this really does interest you or if you're just doing it because it's what you've always done. Or number 4, have a role model or a teacher who helps you along the way. Anytime that you are engaged in something challenging where you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel and you are, I always feel like you're like walking through molasses and you're just like, oh, every step is so hard. And why is this not coming easily? We all have those moments. You need someone up there who's like, you are going the right direction. Keep walking. Just that is enough to be like, okay, just keep walking. Number 5, practice doing hard things. This means deliberate practice working on strengthening your weaknesses. So if there's one thing in your sport, if you're a swimmer and you're like, oh, I'm terrible at kicking, that's the thing that you're going to focus on. Okay, working on your weaknesses, that's the key. So you can even go like a little extra credit right now. You can write down one thing right now that you consider to be one of your weaknesses and something that's hard for you, doesn't come easily, something that you need a little extra work on. Write that down and set a specific goal around it for this week. Okay, because in order to improve, you have to get good at getting out of your comfort zone. If you're like, ooh, I hate kicking, I'm not going to give full effort on this set. Well, shift that and go, okay, kicking's my weakness. I'm going to dig in hard to it today. I mean, it's a different way of looking, right? Number 6, now I've got the right number of fingers up, is imagery. So that is creating a complex and sophisticated image in your mind of various situations that might happen. That's those moments where you are slogging through the mud. One of the girls in Perform Happy was on the group chat earlier this week talking about how she felt scared to do her big release move on bars. And she was noticing that in her imagery, she was feeling scared, but she was doing it successfully. And she thought she was doing her imagery wrong. And I was like, that's so good. That is exactly what you want, is to have that complex imagery. And I teach this in one of our challenges that allows you to encounter exactly what you would encounter in real life, which you might have that heart pound. You might have that, oh, what if? You might have that adrenaline. And when you're imagining it and it happens that way and you are successful, that allows you, it allows your mind to kind of wrap itself around like, oh, this is possible, even if I feel scared, even if I'm not totally sure. So doing imagery in a proper way that uses all your senses and your emotions is so powerful. There's one other imagery example I love to use of Alex Honnold. He was the guy who climbed Half Dome with no ropes. So if you know Yosemite's Half Dome, it's insane, insane. There's a Netflix documentary on his, it's called Free Solo. He used to imagine himself for that last, 20-foot stretch where if he made a mistake, he literally would die. If he made any false move, he would die. In his imagery, he felt it, he smelled it, he tasted it, he saw it. Every single element of it was in there, including how incredibly terrified he would be in that moment. And he knew that he'd be able to respond in the right way because he'd practiced it. He was not going to be shocked when he got up there and there was fear. He was ready for it. So as you get better and better at doing imagery, you create clearer and clearer images, and it allows you to remember what you're working for. So if you know what you're working for and you see it in your mind and you know what it will feel like, then you can keep at it. You can go that extra mile. All right, number 7. This one's hard for me personally. Why is this one so hard? Take a look at your failures and be willing to accept criticism. Ooh, I hate criticism. I just want everyone to love me all the time and tell me how great I am. If you're there in the comments, you can be like, Rebecca, you're awesome. That would make me feel great. But that's not going to make me great. What's going to make me great is going to be listening to the people who think I'm not killing it. It's going to be listening to people who have eyes on me and go, you know what, Rebecca, you could do better here. Because if you're not gritty, you want to stay in your comfort zone and you want to just focus on what's good and not really worry about the other stuff. But if you're willing to look at your failures and look hard at them, accept criticism, that studying of the past is going to allow you to have a much better future. All right, last 2 here. Number 8 is to have unshakable belief that you are going to make it happen. Now, this doesn't have to come from any place of like, well, the facts show that I should be able to, and I'm 12, and if I get to this level, but I'm talking, this goes back to that quote. I want this, and I am going to make it happen. Sometimes our little gremlins in our minds will be like, no, you're not. That's dumb. You can't do that. But you know what? That's another thing, like something that Simone Biles has, that internationally elite level athletes have, is they walk in and they're like, yeah, I'm doing this. This is what's happening. And the grit comes in when it doesn't happen on your first Olympic trials or your second. Maybe you're a 28-year-old Adam Rippon who finally makes the Olympic team in the geriatric age of 28. But that, just being able to believe, maybe it's not going to be this time. If you are 100% set on a certain school, maybe you don't get in that first year, you take a gap year. There's so many things. You ever watched the movie Rudy? He wanted to go to Notre Dame and he made it happen because he had this unshakable belief. So you have to have that. And then you just keep at it. Then number 9, stick with the winners. So hang out with people who are gritty, who are optimistic, who are working, who are going that extra mile, who are not like, ugh, I hate this kicking set. This is so lame. Or, oh, this coach, why is he so critical of me all the time? I hate being criticized. You're like, okay, I'm going to make that better. Okay, I'm going to work harder. All right, let's do it. So sticking with those people makes it a lot easier to find your own grit. Okay. So here's my definition of success that I would like for you to take. If you please, if you don't want to, that's fine too. But here's what I want for you. Success is knowing that everything is going to be okay, trusting that everything works out in its own time, and letting go of the outcome, knowing it's all going to work out. I know it's crazy. I'm like, dream big, let go of the outcome. It's a little bit of both. You dream big. You allow yourself to be like, I want this. I'm going to get this. And I'm successful now because I know I am going to be okay and I'm going to trust the process. That's where the success feeling comes from, not when I get this skill or when I get this whatever, but I am successful because I know I trust the process and I want this and I'm willing to do the work. And then you just sort of have to let go, which is really hard for a control freak perfectionist like me to be like, really, I don't get to know how it's going to look. I just got to keep on trudging and know it will be okay. Okay, so try that. I'm going to repeat that quote one more time as a wrap up. Margaret Perlis says, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not the end. So good, right? All right, thanks for joining me. I hope that you will go forth and like maybe your goal for the next 24 hours is just to remember as many times as you can, everything's going to be okay. Let that be your mantra and see how that feels. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon.